India's rising exports to the US. It looks like India is beating China at it.
Yeah, so we talk about geopolitical sort of tensions across the world, and if you were to look at the battle between who exports more to the US between India and China, data over the last 4 years as compiled by BCG between 2018 to 2022, in fact, Shweta suggests that India has upped its exports to the US by as much as 44%. And the export volume has jumped up to about $23 billion. Compare this to the same time-bound period between 2018 to 2022, the exports from China to US have incidentally declined about 10%. Now, what the report also suggests, and this is something which I think should be good news for India going forward, because China got out of zero COVID only last year, 2022. End of last year, December 2022, and overall, if you look at the years preceding that, 2018 pre-pandemic to 2022, US finds it about 15% cheaper to import goods from India and just about 4% cheaper to import goods from China. So the cost of making products within the US versus exporting it either from China or India, India has an advantage of about 15% in price for US as compared to an advantage of only 4% when it comes to China. Now, which are the industries which have actually been firing? You've got machinery, heavy machinery, you've got auto components, and surprisingly, because again the data is 2018 to 2022, semiconductors. India's semiconductor exports to the US have jumped up as high as 143%, more than doubled and a half pretty much. So now I think
very surprising, given just about a year ago we thought we were unable to make semiconductors in India.
But I think what worked for India was that China in any case was shut down. So what was the option for the West, especially the US? So I think now if we look at India's scenario in 2023, with hopefully, more semiconductor units coming up, with more plants being set up by way of whatever import restrictions we are putting on IT hardware, or trying to woo investors from the US to come and set up shop here in India, I think this story is only going to get better. So my question to Sudeep is, hi Sudeep, good morning, nice to have you here with us. I just want to understand, this data from 2018 to 22 seems fairly positive, but the India story is only just beginning to shine when it comes to manufacturing. How do you see this export story playing out vis-a-vis China?
Well, I think you picked up a very interesting statistics, and we also believe that the subtle change has started happening from the last US president's time, when Donald Trump started bringing sanctions and started bringing restrictions on Chinese imports as far as US is concerned. The message to US corporates and US business was clear that the government and the economy and the country will prefer if imports from China is reduced. And taking the cue, a lot of Indian companies started getting many more orders from US corporates and US businesses than it was the case in the past. And this data you put out, I didn't know about it. I think it's a fantastic point that we are 15% cheaper vis-a-vis similar imports from China as far as US companies and US economy is concerned, and that's very clear economic logic for them coming to India. The challenges in India were, I think, created by ourselves, the regulations, the bureaucracy, the red tape, and whole lot of other issues. But fortunately, those are being addressed and those are being taken care of in the recent past. And that does create a further opportunity window for India. I'm pretty confident that India will continue to gain upper hand as far as exports into China, into US is concerned, vis-a-vis China. I think at this stage, maybe to an extent overdone, but every US corporate which was importing from China wants to move out of China, or definitely create a second base, alternate base. If you look at what has happened to a US corporate, they were in Russia, they were in China. And suddenly one fine morning, Russia did something funny and the sanctions were imposed on Russia, and they had to shut business, sell business at a huge loss and exit. Now for a US CEO, which has seen that this Russia episode getting played out in the last 12 months or 24 months, for him to continue with an only supply base being China, I think is an impossibility. And
Absolutely.
they definitely will need to diversify out of China.
Right. So I just want to bring your attention also to this new spice route that India and the West is all very bullish on, the IMEC, India, Middle East, Europe corridor. How do you see the trade balance really shifting in favor of India as this new IMEC comes pretty much in competition to China's Belt and Road Initiative?
Well, I think it's a good initiative, I will say, but I will be very cautious here. China's Belt and Road Initiative led to a lot of challenges as far as China is concerned, and they earned a lot of, for lack of better word, bad will instead of goodwill out of this project across the world. That may not be only because of the Belt and Road, but combined Belt and Road Initiative, along with their geopolitical activities, did a lot of damage as far as China is concerned. And I think it was not a very successful venture as far as Chinese government and Chinese industry is concerned. Some of the projects which I understand were a disaster even for Chinese corporates which went in and lent money to. We have to be careful. The economics of the entire thing needs to be very carefully worked out before Indian corporates and Indian government ventures out into that. As a concept, I think it's a great concept. It's a counterbalance to the Belt and Road Initiative. And with the world supporting, particularly US and UK and many other powers supporting this initiative of India, I think it's got a better chance of success, provided it's done realistically, provided it's done without any geopolitical tensions, and financially it is ensured that there are no major hit to either the countries over which this route is going, or the mover of the initiative, which is India. Because if it's that is the case, then long run it doesn't survive.
Now, Mr. Bandyopadhyay, I just want to bring back the conversation to the PSU banks. Now, PSU banks have been on a bit of a bull run since the start of the financial year, and like sifting through the data, it seems that the smaller banks are currently trading at a higher price to book multiples than some of the prominent names like let's say a Bank of Baroda or an SBI. So I have two questions here. First, why is that the case? And second, that do you expect these bigger banks to play a catch-up rally from here on?
Well, I've been bullish on State Bank and Bank of Baroda for last 1.5, 2 years, and I've been recommending investors to get into these stocks. And even now, I maintain my view. Even now, for a long-term investor's point of view, buying into SBI and Bank of Baroda is a good idea. As far as some of the other banks are concerned, while a lot is being said and talked about, I would say that if you look at, let's say their historic highs. Now, a bank like Canada Bank is nowhere near its historic high. And it's a large bank as well. Now, there has been a lot of challenges and fundamental issues as far as PSU banks are concerned. The governance, the efficiency, the profit performance, the asset quality issues, all those have been major challenges. And I think there is a confluence of positive factors at this stage, which is taking up the PSU banks and even the smaller PSU banks. State Bank of India, Bank of Baroda are definitely good banks, and they can compete with many private sector banks. But some of the other banks, like a Canada Bank, like some other banks, I think they are also in a very, very good wicket. And I don't believe that their valuations are stretched as far as some of these banks are concerned. But one has to be careful, of course. Two reasons. One is, there is an euphoria. Prices have moved up too much, and some consolidation at some stage is welcome and should happen. The second is, the balance sheets, though looking repaired, there are a lot of assets which still may give them trouble in the near future. And also some of the lending which is happening now, when there is an euphoria overall in the economy, turns out to be a bit of a challenge when tide turns. So one has to be extremely careful as far as some of the smaller PSU banks are concerned. I'm not saying the rally is overdone, but a pause may be warranted.